Yeah.
This is part 2 of our Veterans History Project Oral History with Mr. Sam Dixon. Tonight is Friday, November 20th. And Sam, we just finished discussing your unit is in Comont. You've taken the town of Comont, and your objective, again, if you could repeat, is to hold that area so you can hold the highway and then come into line with the other units that are moving forward into France, correct? And you've been describing the constant shelling. This is daily that's coming from the Germans.
Yes.
What else do you remember about that time? Continue on. Tell us.
Well, mostly I remember that I had my first shade in Comont in Foxhole. I remember that on the full moon, it was a beautiful night. And I stayed out later off guard duty just because of the beauty of the night. It was a nice, quiet, peaceful little town when the shells weren't going off. I remember that we did very little during the day other than stay in our foxhole. Occasionally an officer would come by and see how you're doing. I guess that's about just worrying about when the next German shell is going to fall, or if they're going to attack, and wondering what's going on over Caen, because we could see the tank battles at night. But I don't remember any panic. I don't remember any people around me except one getting killed. But Comont was an experience that I wouldn't want to do again, but I wouldn't want to forget it.
Did you fire your weapon? Did you fire your M1?
No. I never, during the whole war, I never fired an M1, but I did fire the 60 millimeter.
The 60 millimeter, you were firing the 60 millimeter.
Yeah.
Now, tell me what happens next after Comont. What's happening during these days?
Well, after Comont, the British have taken Caen. The 29th has taken St. Lo, and the people that do all the thinking for the Allies are planning on breaking out of the Normandy area. So the 1st Division is relieved by another division, and the 1st Division goes back for rest and relaxation for a week.
Where to?
Well, I'll have to pass on that because I can't remember, but I know it. And at the rest and relaxation, we're waiting on the build-up to break out of St. Lo. About after being there a week, the call comes that the 1st Division is to take Marigny.
Spell that.
M-A-R-I-G-N-Y.
Okay.
And that's just outside of St. Lo. And the thing I remember most about that there were at least 3,000 planes in the sky coming over that area where we were. And they saturate the whole area with these bombs. In fact, that's where General McNair got killed, who was one of our generals. But some of the bombs dropped in the wrong spot.
You saw the planes flying overhead?
Oh yeah, I counted them. I was in a foxhole. I counted at least 3,000.
So this happens after you go back for, and then you're assigned to Marigny to go into Marigny.
Counting the planes is while we're in the rest area.
Really?
Yeah. Because they're softening up the area, getting it ready for a full-scale assault. so the next day or two, and that's got to be around July the 25th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The 1st Division takes Marigny,
Okay.
and then we move on toward the coast, and at a place called Savigny, which was a little town about 20 miles from St. Lo. We were ambushed by the Germans, and there was somebody I didn't know, but one of our soldiers was crying for help, and I remember that I went to him, and I was shot in the leg, and I remember what my sergeant said: "It won't hurt unless it hits a bone." So I was shot in the leg, and I believe this to be true. Whoever was shooting at me stopped. Now, there's only 2 reasons why they'd stop. 1, to get the heck out of there, or 2, he just didn't want to kill me. So he stopped. I went on and I helped the kid. We went back across the hedgerow, took him to the first aid station, and then they put, I was wounded in the leg, so they took care of me and him at the same time and took us back to a field hospital.
This is in Savigny?
Mhm.
Savigny? Near Savigny?
Savigny.
Savigny.
Yeah.
And now, what was the objective of the 1st Division in Savigny? What were you needed to take that town?
We needed to take that town because it was on the way to Coutances.
Okay.
Coutances was a major town closer to Brest, I guess, and they needed the seaport at Brest.
What do you remember about why you got into this situation with the ambush? What happened? You're still doing the mortar support.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? How did the other soldiers get wounded, and how did you wind up going out to rescue them?
Well, we were advancing
Okay.
toward Coutances, and we at this little town, we didn't expect to be any Germans there, but the German would leave a rear guard action, which means their main body of attack has gone ahead, but behind has left some people to slow us down, and that's what this was. They were probably snipers. It could have been snipers. It can be a machine gun, just one machine gun. It could be an artillery piece, but something to slow you down.
Mm-hmm.
Which every time a gun goes off, it slows you down because your first thing you do is duck.
Right.
Hit the dirt. So this kid that was crying for help, and I went to him. I didn't have anything to be afraid of. I just did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we brought him in, and he was kind of hysterical. And I remember it, shell shocked is another word for it. So they took us both back to the field hospital, and then from the field hospital, we were taken to the airport and flew back to England. And that's where I spent several months.
So this would have been July
28.
July 28th, wounded. You were evacuated to a field hospital.
Mm-hmm.
What did they do for you at the field hospital?
Well, in my case, they just cleaned the wound, sent me on back to England, and then they stitched it up, took care of me.
What happened in England?
Well, I had what they call $1 million wound.
Okay.
And I spent most of my time playing ping pong.
Where were you in England?
Plymouth.
In Plymouth?
Mm-hmm.
Were you with just other soldiers who had been
Oh
wounded?
yeah, it was a whole hospital was
Mm-hmm.
soldiers
Mm-hmm.
that had been wounded. I didn't mention it, but I have a citation for helping that kid, and I was given the Bronze Star with valor.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
It was.
That's good.
Yeah.
It was a good thing it was noted too by your superiors that you did that, you know?
Well, you know, there's a saying that for you to get an honor or a medal, you have to do something. Somebody's got to see you do it. Somebody's got to write it up, and somebody's got to send it to the proper channels. And no matter what you do, if they don't do that, you don't get nothing.
How long after that event did you get that medal? Do you remember?
That medal, I was still in the hospital because I didn't like the way I got it. They just call out your name and pass it to you. And I was expecting to, before I went in the service, you know, the pride thing. You stand at attention, you salute, and you get...
Right. Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
The Valor, did you know that that came with the medal itself? It was with Valor.
Yeah, Valor is, they gave a Bronze Star for service.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got one for doing something in Normandy. But the one for Valor is for a specific heroic deed. It's a bigger honor.
It's nice.
Yeah.
That is a nice honor. In Plymouth, what happens in Plymouth? How long are you there for?
I'm there about 3.5 months.
What's the hospital like?
Well, it was nice. I remember that. I remember that they had activities like ping pong. Since I could move around, I was assigned to taking care of the hot water in the restrooms, and every day the whole barracks would empty out to go eat at lunch, and then we would gulp down our food and run back to the radios to hear Lillian Carroll sing "I'll Walk Alone." Beautiful song.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. But I was pretty good. I was a ping pong champion. Yeah, that was $1 million win.
Why so long in the hospital? What happened?
Mostly, I was wounded on the leg muscle, and it wouldn't get well.
Mm-hmm.
It would, if I was walk on it, it would spread open, get infected, and it just. That's my reason. There might have been other reasons. Like I refused to go to any place other than the 1st Division. When you're in the hospital, they won't just get rid of you, send you to anybody. But I just would tell them, I'm not going anywhere except to the 1st Division. And
they were okay with that, to get you back there?
Yeah, if there's a need for it. And the reason that I got to go, the second time I was wounded, the reason I got to go to the 1st Division was because they got wiped out in the hurt going force. They didn't have any replacements. So they needed people to go to the 1st Division.
You're in the hospital, you're doing the ping pong, you're recovering. It's nice. Is it an American Army hospital? Is it a U.S. Army hospital?
Oh, yeah.
Then, about what time of year do you learn that you're going to go back to the front? When does that happen?
Well, they really don't tell you. They just tell you that Dixon, you're moving out today at 10 o'clock. You're going to France.
Okay.
And you go to France, and they put you in what they call repel-depel.
Okay.
And you don't know anything.
Okay.
And in my case, they put me on what they call a 40x8 railroad car.
Okay.
And we went from there through Belgium, and I went to the Battle of the Bulge.
Now, you've already indicated you want to go back to the 1st Division. When you're on that 40x8, are you with other guys who are going back to the 1st Division?
Well, I really don't know.
You don't know?
No.
You're just all...
There wasn't anybody I knew or recognized. In fact, when I got with the 1st Division, there wasn't anybody left that I recognized.
What time of year is this again?
This would be January, December.
December time
The
period.
Bulge started in December.
So you spent a number of months then in that hospital.
Yeah.
You were there. You were evacuating July, August, October, November, early December. Mm-hmm. You're working your way back to the front.
Yeah.
And And it's clear, but you're going to go back to the 1st Division.
Right.
You've made that. That's worked out. And then you get off that 48. You're going. How long does that take?
What's that?
When you're on that train.
I don't remember. I just remember it was awfully crowded and you had to stand up.
Really?
Yeah.
Inside the boxcar.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
You had to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
How cold is it?
I don't remember it being cold, but it was cold when you got to the 1st Division.
Okay. So you're on this train. How long does it take? Do you remember how long that train ride takes?
Well, my guess is a day or two.
All right.
Not much more than that.
And then you arrive at the front.
Well, no, I arrived at a replacement camp.
Okay.
And then you're there for 2 or 3 days, and then they got something going, some reason to send people to the 1st Division. I'm off and running to the 1st, but they take in a truck.
Now, is the replacement depot, the place, is that in Belgium?
The one that I went to, yes.
Yeah. So you get on a train in France, I'm guessing, right? Mm-hmm. And then they send you along the train all the way to a replacement depot in Belgium.
Yes.
And then from there, you're trucked to the front.
Yeah.
And you're trucked back to the 1st Division.
Yeah.
And where are they at this point?
They are Butenbach.
Wow. How do you spell that?
Butenburg, Butenbach, I think.
And this is Belgium.
Yeah.
And this is early December?
Late December.
Yeah, December. Has the Battle of the Bulge already started?
Oh, yeah. It started around the 17th.
So you're already aware that the Battle of the Bulge is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sent to the front. This is the time, now you've recovered, you're back up, you're back. Are you back with your same infantry regiment?
Yeah, everything's the same except the personnel's different.
They've lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
Killed or wounded? That's
Yeah.
what's happened, right?
Well, mostly wounded and mostly in the Hurt Gun Forest.
And what happens when you get to Butenburg, into Belgium?
Well, you're with G Company.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, there's fighting going on because the Germans want the roads in and around Butenbach. So with their tanks, they need those roads. The Germans are trying to fight their way to Antwerp because they need the oil. So they had to go through the 1st Division to get there, and they couldn't do it. They didn't. So it's more or less what you're doing is you're dug in and trying to keep the Germans from advancing. But the worst part's the weather. My goodness, the weather was cold. You couldn't dig. Some people that couldn't dig a foxhole because the ground was frozen.
Were you able to?
Yeah, I had one.
Where are you physically? Are you in a field? Are you on a road?
You're in the field, or you could be. I don't remember being in the field as much as I remember being in a barn or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're seeking shelter. It's 20 below zero.
You're able to get shelter. Do you have winter clothes?
I don't remember getting winter clothes. They were issued, but I only remember the ones that I came out of France with. I don't remember the.
What's going on? Are you feeling the counterattack? Do you see them?
Well, it's not a counterattack. They're on the march. The Germans in December, they blew out the 108th Division, and they penetrated 40 or 50 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they remember they went all the way to Bastogne. That's where the things came from, Bastogne. But that was in the lower part. Because in the northern part, they had to go through the 1st Division, the 9th Division, the 29th Division. They had a rougher road.
Are you guys counterattacking? What are you doing? Are you just
No,
trying to
holding ground?
Just holding the ground.
Yeah.
And again, are you providing mortar support at that time?
Yeah.
That's
we
what you're
have to
doing?
have the mortars get in a lot of action, but mostly it's a 105 howitzer.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you doing any of that work or not?
No.
That's
no.
separate.
But every battalion has got 3 or 4 or 5 of them, and you got to blow those tanks off the road, or you're in for it. I had some buddies that a tank came right up on top of his Foxhole.
Yeah.
And stopped with him under the tank, and then the tank went on. That's kind of scary, huh?
It is really scary.
Yeah.
He missed it. He didn't see him. He just kept going.
Yeah. That might have been a safe place for him to be, because, you know, they got those guns going, and it's hard to put them straight down.
So how many days are you there in this town?
I'm in that area from let's just round figures. Let's say from January the 1st until we cross the Royal River, and we cross the Royal River on February the 26th.
So it's like 6
2
to
months.
7 weeks. It's
Yeah,
a long
7
time.
weeks, yeah.
And it's cold in January, isn't it?
Oh man, it's freezing.
How do you keep warm?
Walking, rubbing your hands, rubbing your feet. Just, that's all you can do.
Give me a typical day. Give me a typical day while you're in this town.
A typical day, just like every day, when you're either fighting or you're receiving it. You're either giving it or you're receiving it. You're sweating out artillery. You got outposts out there looking for movement. You're sweating out the movement, and unless you're counterattacking.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, of course, we weren't a counterattack thing. We were just holding to keep them from penetrating. So the only typical day is just to keep warm. Now, how you do that, I don't even remember how we did that. I just remember that I don't have any memories of sitting down or standing still. In fact, I saw people that had been wounded and weren't dead freeze to death.
Mm-hmm.
They just freeze to death.
Did you spend a lot of time inside, like the barn or a house there when you were?
No, we were on the move. You're in that part when it was that cold. I don't remember moving around too much. You just move in place. Try to keep things warm.
You move in place.
Yeah.
Where are you sleeping at night? In the Foxhole?
Yeah.
You're in the outside.
Yeah.
Do you pull blankets around you?
You'll have blankets. Yeah, they had plenty of blankets. You may have an overcoat. I don't remember having an overcoat, but you could have one.
Is that what did it succeed in keeping you at least a little bit warm overnight?
Yeah.
Did you have any problems with trench foot?
No, I didn't.
You're okay. And so during that time then, during the day, they're shelling you, maybe?
Yeah.
They're shelling you. Are you still in that Foxhole during the days then?
Yeah, unless you've been ordered to move.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of orders come through, like hold your ground at all costs, fight to the death, don't let them get to the oil. And then the other side saying, we got to get to the oil, we got to do this, we got to do that. The worst thing that I remember was that we were told that we were moving out. And we moved through a minefield for 5 miles with the snow up past your knees. And then the order came down that we were going in the wrong direction. So we had to turn around, backtrack through that minefield, all the way back 5 miles. And on the way back, somebody stepped on a mine close to me and killed him. Got back to the outfit, and the captain was reprimanded and sent back to the States. His punishment was he lost his job and had to go back to the States because he led us in the wrong way. that's the biggest memory I've got about the Battle of the Bulge. I don't know who he was, but I do know that stepping on that mine was scary because it was so close. But that's the way it was. There was mine. The Germans, another thing the Germans would do, when they left an area, they left it mined. They left it so you could probably get hurt just by being there.
You firing? You're working as a mortar team during that time. You're firing your weapons as well. You're firing the mortar.
Only when we were on the move. If we were defensively, we weren't firing the mortar too much.
You're just holding the line.
Attacking, we would fire.
You're holding the line, is what you're doing.
Right.
And what's it like to try to dig a foxhole in 20-degree below weather?
Well, you can't really. You just you keep trying. And now I didn't see this and I didn't hear it, but some of them were. It's been said that some of them would use dynamite to loosen the ground, and that may be true. But in my case, if I wasn't in the barn, then I would be trying to find some place where maybe there was something you could move, and maybe a little hole started, because the frozen ground wouldn't be too deep, but it would be just, deep enough. But if you could get down, say 2 feet, I don't think it was frozen.
Underneath, you're able to dig a little bit more. So you're either moving or you're holding a spot, you're holding a defensive position. Could you sometimes actually create a foxhole out of like thick icy snow, or was a foxhole in the ground?
Well, foxholes mostly in the ground, but you can, a tree maybe had fallen, that gives you cover, and you would try to dig in around the tree, but you might just be laying up against the tree, or just anything that makes a little protection.
You move to a spot, you dig in, and you expect to get shelled, right?
You know you will, yeah.
You know you're going to get shelled. And how do you deal with that? You just do.
You just dig, and you really can't deal with it. You're on the defensive, so you just gotta let the shells come in.
Yeah.
And maybe the tide will turn, you'll get on the offensive, and you'll be moving out.
Yep.
You like to be moving when you're getting shelled. Moving out, rather.
Is it better to be moving? I mean, is it do you like the fact, all right, we're moving out now, or is it just an assignment? You're going to be moving to this spot to take a defensive position?
Well, personally, I'd rather move out. A defensive position, in most cases, they know exactly where you are. You can't fight back. You can't fire back at them because they'll know where you are. And it's whoever's got the heavier guns, and the most of them will win that standoff.
Did you lose a lot of guys from the mortars coming in?
I think most of the guys were lost from tanks coming in.
Describe that from the tanks.
Well, you just see these tanks coming down the road, and they're firing, and if they see people, they fire at you, or they fire at buildings where you might be, and they just dominate the whole area. The tanks do.
You see them? Could you see? Remember seeing them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see them.
Scary. How far away from you are they?
The closest the tank ever got to me was 200 yards, I'll say. Closest I ever got to buddies, or not buddies, but friends, or not friends, but anyhow, other people. They've been right on top of them. Yeah.
When you see those tanks coming, they can also unload on you guys, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Right?
If we're firing a mortar, they would unload on us. If we don't do anything to give what we're doing away, well, then they just look for better targets. Mostly the tanks will be firing on areas where these puffs of smoke are coming from, and they've been told by their observers that The building on your right's occupied.
And you're watching them to do that. You're watching them destroy those buildings, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you can't really do anything because you're trying to keep your own cover.
No, we've got that 105 howitzers firing back at them.
Are the howitzers behind you guys?
In most cases, they're at a certain strategic area.
Yeah.
And we're up here